When I was 14 years old, I still remember this vividly. My dad had told me that he had been putting $50 into a bank account every single month since I was born. And he told me that, good news, at 18 years old, I am going to hand you that bank account.
Yeah, lucky bastard.
I remember that. So 4 years later, when I was 18 or when I hit 18, basically went to him and I said, hey,
where's my money?
You said you had this bank account. I was super excited about it. My dad said, yep, I do have it for you. And here it is. And he handed me a bank account with about $11,000 in it. Now, needless to say, that's an amazingly selfless act. And I'm trying to do something very similar for my 2 kids, but I'm doing it in a little bit different way. You see, the general rule with investing in index funds is that every single year you can expect an annual return of 7% after inflation. So if my dad would have taken that money that he was putting into a bank account for me, and instead he put it into whole market index funds, and that rule held up, I would have had $20,400 instead of the $11,000 that he gave. And this is what makes this video so important. So as a father of 2, I really want to make sure that I make the right investment strategies for my own children for the future to set them up as best as possible.
Of course you do.
And in order to do that, I figured, hey, I should sit down with my AI assistant, Tiara. I should speak with her. And here's what I said. Hello, Tiara. I have 2 kids and I'm looking to find the best way to invest money for them so they have a secure financial future. Can you help me understand what the best strategies are?
Of course. Life is full of surprises, and having a financial safety net can help your children tackle future challenges more easily. Whether it's paying for college, starting a business, or even buying their first home. Before we get into all of the investment options to consider, I'd like to cover the importance of investment goals and how to strategically plan to make sure your children benefit the most. Is that okay?
Needless to say, I couldn't argue with that. I want to have the best plan possible, so I let Tiara do her thing.
All right, let's talk about the first step in investing for your child's future: setting clear investment goals. There are 2 types of goals. First are short-term goals. These might include saving for your child's extracurricular activities or a summer camp. Typically, these are expenses you'll encounter within the next few years. Second is long-term goals. These are bigger milestones, like funding a college education or helping with a down payment on a house. These goals have a longer time horizon, often 10 to 20 years or more. The time you have until you need the money will influence your investment choices.
Now this definitely makes sense, right? When I started out with this video, I basically wanted to, think about situations where kids are getting into college or starting a business or buying a car or buying a house. But I do understand that there are definitely some parents out there that maybe have those goals, but also have short-term goals as well that they'd like to plan for. So I understand why she would mention this. The most important thing is that you set these goals early, right? Because once you set the goals, you'll be able to essentially just work backward from there using math and understand exactly what you need to do in order to hit those goals. For instance, if you wanted to hand your kid $50,000 on their 18th birthday, all that you have to do, just using simple math, is take $116, put it into an account every month where you invest it into index funds, and assuming a 7% return every year, it'll hit that goal. And this is the beauty of planning, by the way. So you can make the goals first and then decide the plan and the path to get there second.
Now that you've got your goals figured out, it's time to explore the different investment options available to help you achieve them. I've come up with 5 options that I think everyone should think about. Each option has its own benefits and considerations, so let's break things down. We'll start with 1. 529 plans. These are specialized savings accounts designed for education expenses. They offer tax advantages, like tax-free growth and withdrawals when used for qualified education costs. If you start early, even small contributions can grow significantly over time. In terms of investing funds from a 529 plan, you can pick an investment portfolio, but due to IRS rules, you can't choose individual investments, mutual funds, or ETFs. Your options include a variety of portfolios that hold a combination of mutual funds.
So this is the go-to for a lot of parents, right? And I understand why. The one issue I had with it is I didn't like how restrictive it was on what you could choose to invest in. I wasn't a fan of that. But the fact that it is tax-free is obviously a pretty big benefit. But I did have a question about this, and I wanted to understand what exactly was a qualified educational expense.
Qualified educational expenses for a 529 plan are those that are necessary for enrollment or attendance at an eligible educational institution. These expenses are tax-free when paid for with 529 plan funds. Here's a list of what typically qualifies: tuition and fees, full coverage for college, and up to $10,000 per year for K-12 tuition. Room and board for students enrolled at least half-time, within set limits. Books and supplies that are required for courses. Computers and equipment if primarily used by the student. Special needs equipment for students with special needs. Student loan repayments, which means up to $10,000 for the beneficiary or siblings.
So you could see how this would be beneficial. But one thing that I think is important is understanding what happens if your child is in a 529 plan and they decide to not use that money for any educational expenses at all.
If you don't use the money in a 529 plan for qualified education expenses, the earnings portion of any withdrawal will be subject to federal income taxes and a 10% penalty. There are exceptions where the 10% penalty can be waived, although the earnings will still be subject to taxes. These exceptions include situations where the beneficiary receives a scholarship, attends a U.S. military academy, becomes disabled, or passes away. Additionally, if the funds are used to claim certain educational tax credits, the penalty may also be waived.
So I think it's pretty easy to understand why 529 plans are so popular. Anytime that you can invest money into a plan tax-free and get gains on that money tax-free and then hand it off to your child tax-free, obviously that's a win, tax-free.
All right, I get it.
And I really like the fact that if your child decides that further education just isn't for them, you can actually withdraw that money. Granted, the earnings beyond your original investment will be taxed, and there is a 10% penalty, which kind of hurts. But at the end of the day, most parents are steering their kids towards a trade school or to a traditional college and a degree. So obviously it makes sense for a lot of families. So this seems to be the number one choice from what I could find. But let's look at the next option.
The next option is 2. Custodial accounts, such as UGMA, Uniform Gifts to Minors Act, and UTMA, Uniform Transfers to Minors Act, are popular options for parents or guardians looking to invest in their children's future. These accounts allow adults to transfer assets to minors, who will gain control of the account once they reach the age of majority. Unlike 529 plans, custodial accounts can be used for a wide range of expenses, not just education. In these accounts, you can invest in a wide range of assets, including stocks, bonds, mutual funds, and more. The contributions are considered irrevocable gifts, which can help with estate planning, and there are no annual contribution limits, although large contributions may trigger gift tax considerations.
So this is the account that I got for my daughter, and I'll also be getting for my son. The thing I like about it the most is that it's not restrictive on what I can invest in, right? I can invest in stocks, bonds, mutual funds, whatever I want. And the reality is I'm really not 100% sure in 18 years, especially with the emergence of AI, exactly how education's gonna look. So I'd just rather invest it the way that I want it. Now, I set my daughter up so that she will inherit this account at 25 years old. And I plan on doing the same thing with my son. Now, as good as all that sounds, what are the negatives of this type of account?
Once the child reaches the age of majority, they gain full control of the account, which might not align with the original intentions for the funds. In addition, assets in a custodial account are considered the child's, which can significantly affect eligibility for financial aid. Lastly, earnings above a certain amount are taxed at the child's rate, which can sometimes be higher than the parent's rate.
So there you have it, right? The biggest risk with this account is that you spend years and years investing your money into this account for your child, boy, girl, whatever. And eventually they get to the age to where they're gonna inherit that money, they inherit it, and unfortunately at that time, they're not really going down the path that you wish they were.
What is our situation, Dad?
And maybe they're gonna blow some of that money and do some stupid things. But me personally, I would rather take a bet on myself as a parent and as, to steer my child the right way, to coach them into the right path to take versus an educational system that I really don't have any control over. And frankly, like I said, with AI, I just don't know what the future holds. And maybe I'll regret that. We'll see. Anyways, next I want AI to move on to the next recommendation.
3. Investing in stocks and bonds is a traditional and versatile way to grow wealth for your child's future. Investing directly in the stock market can offer high returns, especially over the long term. Bonds, on the other hand, provide more stability and regular income. A balanced mix of both can help manage risk while aiming for growth.
Now, I think the idea of mixing stocks and bonds is actually really smart, right? I personally would throw some funds in there. But overall, bonds, right, they have a lot less risk because they're pretty much guaranteed, and stocks have a lot more risk. So when you combine the two, it kind of evens out. But I should mention, it's really important that if you go this route, obviously because it's money for your children, you want to invest in long-term stocks, right? Ones that you know are going to be there for a very long time, companies that are doing really well. And also understand that with your bonds, they can lose some value as well, depending on interest rates. Next, let's move on to AI's next recommendation.
4. Real estate can be a powerful way to build wealth over time. Owning rental properties can provide a steady income stream, and property values may appreciate, adding to your investment's value. It requires a larger initial investment and ongoing management, but can be great financially if it all works out.
Now, real estate is a great option for those that are willing to do it. If you're able to get a cash flowing property that is also building up its equity and you're able to pretty much hand that off to your kid, that's going to be almost an unbeatable situation. That said, there are downsides. If you decide to go this route with real estate, it's a lot of money to get started. And then you also have to manage the property the entire time that you own it. And then property values could go down, right? They don't always just go up, they can go down. And also it's important to understand that, hey, sometimes with properties, things go wrong, right? A roof could, all of a sudden need to be replaced, and that can set you back in the long run.
5. Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies have become increasingly popular as alternative investments. They offer unique opportunities and challenges, especially when considering them for long-term investment strategies like saving for a child's future.
Now, I have to admit, I was actually surprised that AI had mentioned cryptocurrencies, but part of a larger plan, I think that it could make some sense. Now, as we all know, there is always potential for something like Bitcoin to just go to the moon and become very, very valuable. So, for instance, Kathy Wood, who is the CEO of ARK Invest, she is predicting that Bitcoin could be worth $1.48 million, each Bitcoin. $1.48 million by 2030. And obviously there are risks involved when you're talking about crypto as well. We all know it has major ups and major downs. It has kind of stabilized as of late because more money is in there. But at the end of the day, there's always the chance that there's crazy volatility. There's the issue with security, right? Because sometimes people hack things, so you want to be careful with that. And then you also want to be careful of government intervention, meaning maybe the government comes in, they make a policy that all of a sudden really hurts the value of Bitcoin. These are all possibilities. That all said, I have personally invested some of my own money into crypto for each of my kids. A small amount of money. Most of the money is in index funds. But as I said earlier, I think that part of a larger investment strategy, it can make some sense. Now, one thing to remember before you do any of this, as always, this is not financial advice, right? Investing does have its risks. I am just trying to educate you on different things out there. Now, if you do decide that, yeah, you know what, you do want to pick long-term stocks for your kids and you would like to go that route, I highly recommend that you watch my other educational video right here, where I asked Tiara, my AI assistant, to help me understand how to analyze and pick stocks. Also, if that one's not for you, check out this video right here. Lastly, if you enjoyed this video, please give it a like so that YouTube will share it with more people. And also make sure that you subscribe so that you can unlock financial success one AI chat at a time. See you in the next one.